Title: The Two Faces of Virgo Sign, the Perfectionist and the Critic. Stop everything you're doing right now. What I'm about to reveal about Virgo in the next dozens of minutes will completely change the way you see this sign forever. Do you think you know a Virgo? Do you think you understand how they function? Prepare to discover that behind that controlled smile, that impeccable organization, and that apparently calm demeanor, there exists a dark universe that few dare to explore. I've been an astrology expert for years. I've analyzed thousands of birth charts, and I can guarantee Virgo is the most misunderstood sign in the Zodiac. Not because it's complex, but because it hides its true motivations with frightening mastery. Today you'll discover why Virgos are simultaneously the most dedicated partners and the most relentless critics that exist. And attention, if you're a Virgo, prepare yourself psychologically, because some truths I'm going to reveal might be uncomfortable. If you know someone from this sign, prepare to finally understand why certain attitudes of theirs always left you confused. Before we begin this journey through the depths of the Virgo soul, do something for me. Subscribe to this channel now. Activate the notification bell, because every day I bring exclusive content about the most hidden secrets of the signs. And leave your comment answering, have you ever felt judged by a Virgo? I want to know how many of you have been through this. Now take a deep breath, because we're going to dive into Virgo's most secret and disturbing side. And I guarantee, after this video, you'll never look at a Virgo the same way again. Chapter 1. The Mystery Behind the Perfect Mask. Have you ever noticed how Virgos always have that everything under control air? How they manage to stay calm, even when everything is falling apart around them? This isn't coincidence. Actually, it's the result of years of building one of the most sophisticated masks in the Zodiac. But here's the first secret no one tells you. This perfection mask wasn't born from arrogance or superiority. It was born from fear. Yes, you heard right. Behind all that obsessive organization, that need to have every detail in its right place, there exists a deep terror of chaos, failure, judgment from others. Let me tell you something that happened to me recently. I met a Virgo woman who seemed to have an absolutely perfect life. Impeccable house, brilliant career, apparently harmonious relationships. But when I started analyzing her birth chart more deeply, I discovered something shocking. She slept an average of 3 hours per night, because she spent hours reorganizing things that were already organized, checking emails she had already checked, redoing work that was already perfect. And you know what she told me when I confronted her about this? If I don't do it, who will do it right? This sentence perfectly summarizes Virgo's first face. They genuinely believe they're the only ones capable of doing things the right way. And this isn't arrogance. It's a responsibility they carry like a cross. Here's something that will surprise you. Virgos weren't born perfectionists. They became perfectionists because at some point in their lives, usually in childhood, someone made them feel they weren't good enough. And since then, they've spent their entire lives trying to prove otherwise. That's why when you see a Virgo organizing obsessively, you're not seeing someone who likes order. You're seeing someone who desperately needs order to feel safe, to feel in control, to not feel vulnerable again. But wait, because the story gets even more interesting. Want to know what's the most fascinating side of Virgos' perfection mask? It's that they're so good at wearing it that often even they don't realize when it's in place. They live so long trying to be impeccable that they forget what it's like to simply be human. Chapter 2. The Architecture of Perfection. How Virgo builds their world. Now that you understand that Virgo's perfection is armor, let's dive into how they build this impenetrable fortress. And prepare yourself, because what I'm going to reveal will explain behaviors you always found strange in the Virgos in your life. First, you need to understand that Virgo doesn't see details. They see flaws. When a Virgo looks at any situation, their brain automatically does a complete scan, looking for what could go wrong. It's as if they have an internal radar programmed to detect imperfections that don't even exist yet. Let me give you a practical example that will shock you. I met a Virgo man who always arrived 20 minutes early to any appointment. But it wasn't just punctuality. He planned alternative routes, checked traffic 3 times, had plans B, C, and D for any unexpected event. One day I asked why so much drama for a simple lunch, and his answer gave me chills. Because if I'm late, people will think I'm irresponsible, and if they think that, they'll start doubting everything I do. Do you see the logic? For Virgo, a small error can bring down the entire castle of credibility they spent years building. That's why they leave nothing to chance. Nothing. And here's the deepest secret. Virgos aren't trying to impress others with their perfection. They're trying to protect themselves from rejection. Every list they make, every detail they organize, every plan they create is a wall against the possibility of being considered inadequate. But there's something even more disturbing about how they build this perfection. They develop an almost supernatural ability to anticipate problems. While you're relaxing, the Virgo has already identified 7 things that could go wrong, and already has ready solutions for each one. And you know what this creates? An addictive dependence from others. People start depending so much on Virgos' organization and predictability that they become indispensable. And this feeds even more their need to be perfect, creating an infinite cycle. But here's where things get sinister. The more perfect they become, the more isolated they get, because no one can compete with the impossible standard they establish. And slowly, without realizing it, they start feeling alone at the top of their own perfection. Chapter 3, The Secret Laboratory, where Virgo analyzes everything and everyone. Now, I'm going to tell you something that no Virgo openly admits. They have a mental laboratory where they dissect every interaction, every word, every gesture of the people around them. And what they discover in this laboratory feeds both their luminous face and their dark face. Virgo is, without doubt, the detective of the Zodiac. They capture micro-expressions, analyze voice tones, perceive inconsistencies that go completely unnoticed by other signs. This ability makes them exceptional consultants, loyal friends, and dedicated partners. But it also transforms them into something very dangerous: silent judges. Let me tell a story that will make you understand the depth of this analysis. A Virgo friend once told me, "I know my boss is going to fire me before he even knows it himself." I thought it was an exaggeration, until 3 weeks later she was fired. How did she know? Simple. She had cataloged 23 subtle changes in his behavior over 2 months, changes that no one else had noticed. This analytical capacity makes Virgo always be 3 steps ahead of any situation. They know when you're lying before you even finish the sentence. They know when a relationship will end months before the first serious fight. They know when a project will fail before it even starts. And here's the problem. This knowledge is a curse. Imagine living constantly knowing things others don't know, seeing problems others don't see, anticipating pain others can't even imagine. It's like having superpowers you can't turn off. That's why Virgo develops that famous analytical coldness. It's not that they don't feel, they feel too much, but they learn that the only way to function with so much information is processing everything logically and rationally, keeping emotions under rigid control. But wait, because the most fascinating part is yet to come. This mental laboratory doesn't only analyze others, it analyzes itself with impressive cruelty. And this is where we begin to see the dark face emerging from the depths of the Virgo soul. Chapter 4, The Hidden Face, When Perfection Becomes Poison. The time has come to reveal what no one dares to talk about regarding Virgo. That same analytical power that makes them exceptional also turns against themselves with terrifying ferocity. And when this happens, the most relentless critic you can imagine is born. A critic that lives inside the Virgo's own mind. I'm going to tell you something that kept me awake when I discovered it. I was analyzing the chart of a Virgo client who seemed to have everything: professional success, stable relationship, perfect health. But when we started talking about her self-esteem, she broke down. She told me, "I wake up every day with a voice in my head telling me everything I did wrong yesterday and everything I'll do wrong today. This voice isn't a metaphor. It's real. It's the result of years of self-demand, excessive analysis, search for a perfection that simply doesn't exist. And what makes this even more tragic is that the more they achieve externally, the louder this internal voice becomes. Here's Virgo's darkest secret. They're masters at transforming successes into failures. Did they get that promotion? But it took too long to get it. Did they organize a perfect event? But they could have saved more money. Did they help someone? But they didn't help enough. And when this internal criticism reaches its limit, it explodes outward. It's at this moment that the Virgo everyone fears emerges, the one who finds fault in everything, who's never satisfied with anything, who corrodes others' self-esteem with constructive comments that are actually poisoned daggers. But here's what no one understands. When a Virgo criticizes you, they're not trying to hurt you. They're projecting onto you the same cruelty they use with themselves. It's as if they're saying, "If I treat myself like this, why should you be treated differently?" Chapter 5, The Emotional Vampire. When Virgo feeds on others' chaos. Now I'm going to reveal something that might shock you. There's a type of Virgo that becomes addicted to fixing others. And this addiction can transform them into true, emotional vampires who suck people's energy under the mask of help. These Virgos develop a sick need to find broken people so they can exercise their compulsion to organize and correct. They approach problematic partners, friends in crisis, disorganized colleagues, always with the promise to help, resolve, improve. But here's the scary part. They don't really want these people to get better, because if they improve, Virgos lose their source of purpose, their reason for existing, their justification for feeling superior and necessary. I met an extreme case, a Virgo man who only dated women with serious emotional problems. He presented himself as the savior, the organizer, the one who would bring stability to her life. But whenever the partner started getting stronger and more organized, he found new problems to fix, creating infinite emotional dependence. And the most disturbing part, he did this unconsciously. He genuinely believed he was helping, but deep down he was feeding his own need to feel indispensable, perfect, superior. This is the darkest side of Virgo duality, the transformation of care into control, help into manipulation, perfection into emotional prison. Chapter 6, The Toxic Savior Syndrome, When Helping Becomes Obsession. Let's dive even deeper into the Virgo psyche. There's a phenomenon I call toxic savior syndrome that affects many Virgos and can destroy entire relationships without anyone understanding what's happening. It works like this. The Virgo identifies a problem in someone close. It could be disorganization, lack of discipline, bad choices, anything that triggers the needs to be fixed radar. From then on, they develop a genuine obsession with solving this issue. The problem is they don't ask if the person wants to be fixed. They assume they know what's best and start a subtle, and sometimes not so subtle campaign of behavioral modification. I had a client who told me, "My Virgo husband reorganizes my drawers without me asking, corrects my way of driving, suggests better clothes for me to wear, questions my friendships. He says it's because he loves me, but I feel constantly judged." And here's what makes this even more complex. The Virgo really believes they're showing love through these corrections. In their mind, ignoring the defects of someone they love would be negligence, would be not caring enough to help. But the result is devastating. The person feels constantly inadequate, always being tested, never good enough. And the more they resist the improvements, the more the Virgo intensifies efforts, creating an infinite toxic cycle. The most tragic part is that the Virgo themselves suffers intensely in this process. They can't relax, can't accept imperfections, can't simply love without trying to modify. And this leaves them exhausted, frustrated, and paradoxically, increasingly critical. Chapter 7, The Internal War, the Virgo against themselves. Now I'm going to reveal what I consider the most devastating aspect of the Virgo personality, the constant war they wage against themselves. And when you understand this, you'll comprehend why they sometimes seem so harsh and distant. Inside every Virgo exist two armies in permanent battle. On one side, the ideal Virgo, the one who has everything under control, who never makes mistakes, who always knows what to do. On the other side, the human Virgo, the one who feels, who doubts, who makes mistakes, who needs affection and understanding. The problem is that the ideal Virgo always wins this battle, and it wins by crushing, humiliating, and silencing the human Virgo. That's why you rarely see a Virgo being vulnerable, asking for help, or admitting they don't know something. Let me tell you what happened with a client of mine that deeply marked me. He was a successful Virgo executive, apparently had everything figured out. But during our consultation, he broke down and said, "I wake up every day pretending to be someone I'm terrified of not being able to be." This sentence sums up the Virgo tragedy. They've created such a high standard for themselves that they live constantly afraid of crumbling. And the more successful they become externally, the greater this internal fear becomes. And here's what's most cruel. They can't show this vulnerability to anyone, because if they show weakness, they break the image of reliability they took years to build. So they carry this weight alone, in silence, corroding themselves from within. That's why many Virgos develop anxiety, depression, eating disorders, insomnia. The physical body can't sustain a perfection that only exists in the mind. Chapter 8. The Golden Prison. When success becomes suffering. There's a phenomenon I constantly observe in successful Virgos. The more they achieve, the more prisoners they become of their own achievements. And this creates a devastating psychological trap. I'll give you a real example that still gives me chills. I met a Virgo woman who built a millionaire company from scratch. Externally, she was the definition of success. Rich, respected, admired. But when we started talking, I discovered she worked 16 hours a day, had no personal life, didn't trust anyone to delegate important tasks, and lived in constant fear that one mistake would destroy everything she had built. She told me something I'll never forget. "I created a golden prison. Everyone admires the gold bars, but they're still bars. This is the curse of Virgo success. They can't enjoy what they have achieved because they're always focused on what could go wrong, what needs to be improved, the next level of perfection they need to reach. And here's the saddest part. They start being afraid of their own success because success attracts attention, and attention attracts judgment. And judgment is any Virgo's biggest phobia. So they constantly live sabotaging themselves, creating unnecessary obstacles, complicating simple situations. I call this Virgo Icarus syndrome. They fly so high toward perfection that they end up burning themselves in their own demands. Chapter 9. The Broken Mirror. How Virgo Sees the World. Now I'm going to reveal something that will explain Virgo behaviors you never could understand. The way they see the world isn't like ours. It's as if they look through a mirror that only reflects imperfections. Where you see a tidy house, the Virgo sees the 3 books out of order on the shelf. Where you see work well done, they see the 2 details that could be better. Where you see a happy relationship, they see the small conflicts that could grow. This distorted vision isn't optional. It's automatic. It's as if their brain is programmed to do a constant scan for flaws. And this leaves them mentally exhausted because they can never simply relax and appreciate what's good. But here's what's most disturbing. They project this vision onto others. When a Virgo looks at you, they automatically identify what needs to be improved in you. It's not malice. It's compulsion. I had a client who told me, "I can't look at anyone without thinking about how that person could be better. It's automatic. I hate it, but I can't stop." And this creates terrible isolation because people feel this judging energy, even when the Virgo doesn't say anything. They feel analyzed, weighed, measured, and naturally they move away. The result? The Virgo becomes increasingly alone, confirming their belief that people are lazy, sloppy, don't try hard enough, creating a vicious cycle of judgment and isolation. Chapter 10. The Final Revelation. The True Nature of Duality. We've reached the moment of the most impactful revelation about Virgo. After everything I've revealed, you must be thinking this sign is a lost cause, right? That it's impossible to deal with so much duality, so much psychological complexity. But here's the truth that will completely change your perspective. All this duality, all this internal struggle, all this impossible search for perfection is born from a very pure and beautiful place, love. Yes, you heard correctly. Virgos do all this out of love. Love for order, love for beauty, love for the people they want to protect, love for a better world. The problem is they never learn to express this love in a healthy way. When a Virgo corrects you, they're trying to love you the way they know how. When they demand obsessively from themselves, they're trying to become worthy of love. When they organize everything compulsively, they're trying to create a loving and safe environment. The tragedy isn't in the duality, it's in the misunderstanding. Virgo is simultaneously the sign that loves most and knows least how to show love. It's the one that most wants to help and most hurts while trying to help. It's the one that most seeks perfection and most suffers for never achieving it. And here's what no one realizes. Behind every Virgo criticism exists a desperate plea for approval. Behind every correction exists a deep desire for connection. Behind every perfection exists a soul that just wants to be accepted. Virgo's luminous face and dark face aren't opposite faces. They're complementary faces of the same need, the need to feel valuable, useful, loved. Impactful ending and final call to action. Now you know the truth about Virgo. You know that behind that apparent coldness exists one of the most sensitive souls in the Zodiac. You know that behind that relentless criticism exists someone who's criticizing themselves even more harshly. You know that behind that obsessive search for perfection exists someone who just wants to be loved exactly as they are. If you're a Virgo watching this, I want you to know, you don't need to be perfect to be loved. Your humanity, your flaws, your vulnerabilities don't make you less valuable. They make you real. And real is infinitely more beautiful than perfect. If you know a Virgo, understand, when they criticize, when they correct, when they withdraw, it's not about you. It's about their fear. Be patient. Be understanding. Show them you accept them, even when they can't accept themselves. And now I need to know, which of Virgo's two faces do you recognize most? The luminous face of the dedicated perfectionist, or the dark face of the relentless critic? Leave your comment telling about your experience with Virgos. Your stories can help other people better understand this complex sign. If this video impacted you, if it made you see Virgo in a completely new way, I need you to do 3 things right now. First, leave your like so more people can discover these truths. Second, subscribe to the channel and activate notifications, because every week I bring deep revelations about the signs that will shake your convictions. And third, share this video with someone who needs to better understand the Virgos in their life. In the next episode, we're going to unveil the 2 faces of Libra, the sign everyone thinks is pure balance, but hides an internal war so intense it can destroy entire relationships. You'll discover why Librans are simultaneously the most charming and most indecisive partners that exist, and I guarantee, after this revelation, you'll never look at the scales of justice the same way again. Until the next revelation, and remember, the Zodiac has secrets that can change your life. You just need the courage to face them.